it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce you to two people who really need no introduction. They are actually people who've lived thrills and chills. Unlike a guy like me who just writes thrillers, they live thrillers. Two of their books, each of their books, one on Avni, the man-eating tigress, about which and other adventures of which Nawab Saab will speak, and Mr. Vijay Kumar on the hunt for Veerappan. When I read the books, there are some uncanny similarities between hunting a man-eater and, let's say, hunting a guy who avoids law enforcement people. Both the man-eating tiger and Veerappan show extraordinarily similar qualities, if I may say so. But I'm going to ask the two gentlemen with me to actually take us through their jungle encounters, thrills and chills, and the many adventures they've had. I'll start with Mr. Vijay Kumar with a simple question, sir. For 20 years or more, Veerappan managed to evade the law enforcement forces of, I think, 3 states, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. In the process, he killed multiple policemen. He poached and killed multiple tuskers and other animals. And when I read the book, I'm struck by how legendary the man became during the course of his lifetime. So I'd like to know, when you were appointed to head the Special Task Force, you were really facing quite a legendary bandit. So what was your thinking, your approach? How did you really choose to go about your task?
Thank you. So I will start with a small prayer, because this is what happened when my wife asked me, what time is your session? 2 to 3. Oh God, you're gone, because 2 to 3 is my absolutely pleasant and sleeping time. And I remembered...
I think, can you raise the volume, please, there?
My wife was making a joke of the timing given to me, because I normally end up pre-prandial or post-prandial, that is just before lunch or after lunch. Then she said 2 to 3 vulnerable, because God, I'm dead. Wherever I am, even during active police service, there is something called police standing orders. I used to call it police sleeping orders, number 1. Because sleep and fitness is something your boss won't order you to take. You take it. You take your meal, take your rest, take your fitness. And I remember there's something called criminal gangs those days. It's no more in vogue, because if you today say, you'll be digitally trolled and buried. So I am using that old historical thing. Actually, there was a criminal tribe. My dad was a police inspector. He had told me, they used to invoke goddess Morpheus. Goddess Morpheus in Greek mythology. Morphine, you know. Morpheus stands for sleep. Why do they invoke Morpheus? So that they won't sleep when they're doing the job. Moodevi. They used to worship, in Tamil it's called Moodevi. They used to worship Moodevi. So I am making a worship to Morpheus, so though I don't crash during this session. I'm extremely grateful to be amongst this wonderful audience. What arrangements. Fantastic. Kalpana ji, Mr. Aroon Raman, who brought me here, and Mr. Pinto, and Mr. Srinivasan. I'm a bit of a fighter, but I also ventured into I became a bit of a writer also. Now I am flanked by a very deadly writer and an actual good fighter of man-eaters. So I am in a very safe territory, because to be surrounded and be along with very strong men, you also feel good. This is what my quotation. Matthew B. Ridgway in World War II said, both the generals on my flanks are good, so I don't have less job to do. Now to your question, very simply put, I'm not trying to be overly modest. My predecessors have done tremendous good work. That is Shankar Bidri from Karnataka. Fantastic work. Though he was trashed and his name was sullied and he was taken before various commissions, he stood like a rock and said, all the faults are on me, don't blame me, man, I will take it on myself. What a leader. Walter Devaram here, who is a resident of Kunnur half the time, tremendous man, topper of the 1963 batch. And he used to lie in ambush when he was 54 years and the average age of our STF was 24, 25. Along with that man, no other place, maybe in some exceptional armies, exceptional special forces, a leader. You at 60, you went to Yavatmal and you were doing the hunting. I thought you should have been very good in police and military also. So such people have done tremendous work. They had brought a not complete decimation, but degradation of the gang, which was 160 or 170, and they brought it to single digit. That was one reason. But at the same time, in a jungle, when the team becomes minuscule or smaller, it becomes less visible. A bigger gang is easy to spot. A bigger predator is easy to spot. A smaller one is, tick is very difficult to detect. Tick. For instance, you don't know what tick, supposing you don't know what tick, I'll explain to you. You take a leaf which is of this size, 400 ticks can live in that small leaf, dry leaf, and they can live forever, years. One tick gets into your thing, it won't kill you, but it will crush you. I used to have boil-like rashes. My problem was not the bigger predator, but ticks and leeches. Anyway, the next one was that these people who have done good work had diminished the team considerably, and a cat typically has 9 lives. I guess, like I said somewhere else, he has exhausted 8 lives by the time when I entered the STF. I am being not overly modest, but I am being modest and sincere in giving the credit to my team. Secondly, I had a very powerful team. It will be incredulous. You will even wonder whether it is real or true. But there were men in STF who had worked there continuously for 10 years, 15 years without even going for the wedding. I mean, they didn't get wedded, they didn't get married. There were such people. Not a large number, but considerable. So this was another reason. The team was motivated, the followership was great. They were just wanting somebody to land up there. I landed up in good time. So I was surrounded well with good men. The next point is, you had to give them faith. I gave them faith. Basically, that's what I did. I gave them good training because I had exposure to the BSF. I had exposure to different countries, special forces. I had, for instance, visited 51, 52 countries. I was not interested in fancy goods or getting the best stuff there. Maybe a t-shirt, maybe a small thing. But I was interested in who is my counterpart. What is the Secret Service man? Why is he so special? The Russian agent, KGB and GRU or some other group was there. What is so special? Why are the alpha male among the bodyguards? I used to copy, mimic. So mimicking was one, and mimicking the foe was another. I will stop at this point, and then we will proceed as we go along.
Thank you. I think we will speak a little, we'll get Mr. Vijay Kumar to speak a little bit more about setting the trap. I think that was a very thrilling episode when they finally caught up with Veerappan. I'll move to Nawab Saab. Nawab Saab, I think you are one of the few, very few people left in the country who is called upon by various state governments across the country.
Vanishing species.
He himself is a vanishing species, but when I think, as in the case of the Avani at Yavatmal, where the number of kills start going beyond 5, 8, 10, and I think you've made a very telling point that 21,000 people were locking themselves in their homes at night by the time the tigress had crossed, I think, a certain 15 or 20 kills. So you are, in that sense, a resource, person of last resource when you are called in to attack, or take on a man-eating animal like this. So how did you, when you were called in this specific case, what was your plan of action, ground thinking, what was in your mind?
Thank you, Arunji. And before I begin, I must thank Geeta Srinivasanji and all the committee members for this wonderful program which has been taken care of right from the time I landed in the hotel till now. We have never been left, and everything has been spick and span. Now, coming back to your answer, my grandfather was advisor to British government on man-animal conflict. Then, 80 years back, we didn't have tranquilizing, we didn't have camera traps and the modern equipment. So the only solution to handle man-eaters or rogue elephants was to eliminate them. And even then there was a great shortage of such people who could read the forest, who could understand the psychology of the animal. Jim Corbett was one of them. He was no conservationist, he was no NGO, but today we have the largest and the best national park in our country named after a hunter. So this is something to, seriously take note of. Now, in the last 20 years, with strict laws of conservation and the extremely good work our forest department is doing, and the strict central laws, the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, poachers are on the run, and there has been a spurt in animal numbers. To quickly give you some statistics, in 1987, India had 15,700 elephants, wild elephants in the country. Today we have 35,000 of them. The landmass is the same. The human population, which was at 60 billion then, is at 140 today. So the human population has gone up 100%. Elephant population has gone up 110%. So, what is going to happen? What are we heading for? This is the basic problem. Now, where we are working in Maharashtra as an advisor, as a conflict management expert, in 2005, Maharashtra had 100 tigers. Today, they have 400. And the result is that this year, we have had, from January to September, we have had 147 human kills, 147 tigers which have been poisoned, electrocuted. In Nilgiri is also, I was reading, we have had 10 casualties. So now we are working at ground zero, at ground level. And the frustration, the anger that I see from local people is very, very alarming. Because make no mistake, India is a very poor country. The contrast between the rich and the poor, or our lifestyle, to that of the tribals in Jharkhand where we work, or in Maharashtra, or in Telangana, Andhra, there's a world of difference. There, a man has to grow crop on his 2 to 3 acres of land and survive on it. He's taken a loan to buy fodder, to buy pesticides, and when the crop is ready, on which his family has to depend, a herd of elephant comes and ruins that crop. What is he going to do? Compensation, when and how it comes is known to all of us. Never comes. So, 1,87,000 villages in India, which is on the fringes of our national parks, are at the receiving end. So, what is happening is, a lot of animals are straying out of the forest because our forests are not maintained. Yellowstone National Park is maintained. They grow fodder which is required for the animals. Here we don't have in India any such policy where in government-controlled forests, a particular type of tree, a particular type of grass which is grown, which is a fodder for wild animals. This practice is not there. So what is happening is, these animals are straying out of the forests, tigers are straying out of the forests, elephants are straying out of the forest and killing people. This is triggering off a very, very dangerous trend in our country.
I'm just,
Yes, Mr.
just what you call jumping the gun. Like they say, thinking cop is an oxymoron, thinking cop. So he's talking about a very moralistic hunter. Is an oxymoron or is ethical shunting?
I think that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, because he's also a nature lover and a conservationist. Right. But before I take the next question to Shafath, Mr. Vijay Kumar, end of the day, I think while you say modestly that you came in towards the end and so on, the final encounter reads in an extremely thrilling way to me. Can you tell us a little bit about it? How was the trap set? Was it luck on his part, ill luck on his part, luck on your part? How was the trap set and how did it happen?
I would love you to read the book. If you can't read the entire book, read only chapter 34. It came very spontaneously. I sat there and wrote it in 3 hours. I gave it to several people. They said it's trash. I felt very crushed when I came back and read one or two novels. I think that famous thing on the president of French president, what is the best of the book written by this Frederick Forsyth? And a couple of things about that English author who writes about Marlon Brando, various other people about Battle of the Bulge and certain other things. Or Maclean, what is that? Alistair Maclean. When I read Alistair Maclean, I'm not trying to puff myself up. There was one chapter in which it seemed to coincide. Maybe it's subconscious. I must have mugged him up or read when I was an adolescent or a young fellow. And I was doing the minute-to-minute accounting there. If you see there is 1 hour before what happens, 20 minutes before what happens, 10 minutes before what happens, and 10 seconds before what happens I've written. And it is not epiphany or anything. I wrote, and when I read that book later, it seemed to almost coincide. That means you get influenced by many writings. Whatever happened was truth, but the way I presented was something else. So I love to acknowledge all the great authors. So that's why I love to be among you so that it will rub on me and my little bit of brawn, but the brain also may a little bit grow. That infection is what I am seeking from you. Now, as regards this guy, I told you his numbers had become very small. And he had that ghost-like quality. T. Lawrence says a gorilla should be like a gas. He is invisible. You can feel him, but you cannot see him. He was exactly like that. T. Lawrence of Arabia, Peter O'Toole movie, the older generation would have seen. Now, actually there are 24,000 square kilometers. If you further distill it, boil it down, it will come to 4,000 square kilometers, target area. And within that, the core area was about 1,200 kilometers, 30 by 40. You may think, what is a big deal, 30 by 40? Let me tell you, even in a 2 by 2, that is about 4 square kilometers, we put 2 battalions of 2,000 men. And that guy was there and we could not smell because our ability, the olfactory, we don't have the dog smelling ability. Our instincts are much worse than most of the animals. When I look at that, I was just thinking, if that guy had the brain in proportion to the weight like we had, we would be there and that fellow would be sitting here. That's an animal, this thing. Because we have lived on the best of proteins and we have become the best of the hunters. Superior brain. Now this guy was a beast combining the brain. He has not forgone his brain, but he was the highest sensibilities, the sixth sense, or if you got a seventh sense also he had. So when we were fumbling and going around this 1,200 or 400 kilometers, the 30 by 40, we used to get news that he's not there near his village, near Mettur on one side, that is the easternmost part. Incidentally, the tri-junction of Andhra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu is that side. Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu is this side. And he was ruling the roost in the entire stretch and making a fool of the force. That is my sincere troops about whom I told you. Dedication, focus, laser-like feelings, all this will not work. It boils down to jungle craft. A policeman is normally trained to be an interventionist, stopping the traffic or telling you to go there, command, and he will wear noisy boots like I am wearing now, with nails also if possible. But the jungles require a different kind of man. Silence, secrecy, stealth, subtlety, and no smell. On one occasion, let me share this with you, and we will know. 2 kilometers away, one of my small teams of 6 members, we diminished the team size from 15 to 6 because we found Veerappan was having only 4 people. So we copied the enemy. Colonel McQueen, in one of his famous books, says, you must mimic the enemy and outdo him, do better than him. You must watch why is he successful, why his tactics and strategy is good, follow him up to a point and then outbeat him. Out-Heroding Herod in Hamlet, there is a word in Shakespeare. So we watched and we said that fellow is only 4. If he is going to survive with 4, why can't we survive with 6? The problem was, in a team of 15, we used to have a LMG, light machine gun, very powerful gun, with a belt of 200 bullets. 7.62, which will travel about almost a kilometer, but powerful up to half a kilometer. Now, what's the point in hefting all this 14 kg stuff? It was very tiresome for us. In jungle, every gram will weigh like a kilogram, especially when you're going up the gradient. We would like to jettison and throw away. So like a light infantry, Captain Gopinath will understand when I say infantry, though you are an artilleryman, you will appreciate the infantry. Walking light, because he was walking light, we should walk light. So we reduced the team from 15 to 6. How did we achieve it? I was convinced the team should be diminished, made concise, but I didn't want to impose it. I raised a consensus, persuasive consensus, coercive consensus, but the consensus emerged. The team said, yes, sir, now we agree. It took about 2 days, 3 days. Hussain was one of them. Very adventurous. His friend Hussain, he was a gunsmith, he was a sniper, he was a cook, and he was a mechanic. There is a book, one such book called, one of those famous books, The Man Who Came Out from the Cold. The same author has written that book. So this fellow was like that. So we reduced the size of the team, and we played his own tricks, intelligence games. Then we realized that he is not anywhere near Kerala, all the way 200 kilometers from his place. He is very much near his native place. Why? Because the mutton kurma, chicken kurma, which is going from a particular small hotel, in which our STF boys used to have the meal, same meal was going to him through some couriers. This is the reality. This is what is happening. So he was fooling all of us. So Mirji, my counterpart in Karnataka, he conducted a raid, and I had just come back from a meeting in Delhi, very frustrating meeting, because they promised the whole 7-star, and they give you -7-star, all sorts of helicopters from nothing happened. I was very frustrated, very angry. Don't think that all of us within the bureaucracy are completely like that. Some of us are anti-establishment, and I always encourage people in the bureaucracy to be anti-establishment, because bureaucracy is anonymous, it is impartial in a way, but sometimes heartless also. It goes by a system. So you have to keep that insurgent alive to fight against the system for the good of the society and community. Anyway, when I came back, I was told there is an interesting place. Why don't you go and see? We have found this place. Damn good, yeah. We always find this place. We always find this den, minus the resident. This has been happening. When I went and saw this place, even a leopard will find it difficult to go to the spot because the ledge of the rock was this much, and I had to very carefully step. The wind was howling, pushing me, so I was keeping on the rock side, and rock was always not this way, rock, some other parts was like this way. So imagine how we have to negotiate. Thankfully, we managed. When we reached there, we found about 200 to 300 empty shells, eggshells, and beautiful water, the purest one, like of which you will get in Munnar and some other places only. No other place in the world can give you that kind of lovely water. We partook the water. We decided this guy is not going to leave this place because this is his anchor. He will not leave this place. How to get him out? There is a chap called Tirunavakarsu, one of my deputies. I told him we will put 35 teams of six people in this area. And what is the idea? Are we going to catch him? I said, no. We are going to put a grenade in his mind. We are not going to go throw a grenade anywhere. We are going to make his life miserable. He should think that we are seeing. You told me about the story of search labs. So the psychological angle of scared, making him terrorized and fear for life. So he switched over from his den, his heartland, and moved to Tamil Nadu on that side. Though he's a Tamil, he was more comfortable in Gobinatham, his village. He crossed over Kaveri on one moonlit night, and that was the beginning of his end, I would say. In the meanwhile, we got hold of one fellow. I'll take 2 minutes. I think I'm
Please.
See, we had a constable. Constable is the last in the hierarchy in police department. I was already ADG, means now 11 hierarchy above something, just one below the DG. You can understand. But the jungles will not tolerate hierarchy. The bullets don't go by the rank. In the jungle, nobody wears the rank. We are all like constable. I never used to put the rank. I have to be as nimble, as supple, as amenable, as tactical as the last man. However, this constable went as an intelligence operative. He was a very short and unobtrusive gentleman. He went into Malay Madheswara, that is in Karnataka side, as an assistant to a contractor, drinking only porridge and ragi balls every day, Nobody knew he was a constable of the STF of my this. Even Karnataka STF never knew that he was there. Why did he go as a contractor? That is because this contractor was held in a small offense he committed one day in Kolattur area in Tamil Nadu, and this boy condoned him. He said it's all right. Goodwill. You may say that what right he has to give amnesty, but these things happen in the peripheral areas. Small offenses better to ignore. That friendship, that loyalty helped in this way that one day when that contractor was coming down that Malai Madheswara hairpin bend, he was accosted by number 2 to Govindan number 2 to Veerappan called Govindan, his cousin, who was in fact more powerful than Govindan physically and mentally. But Veerappan had a brand name. He was already a big man. He had become a titan. So the number 2 was actually guiding and steering him. So this Govindan took him inside, 50 meters inside that curve, and there Veerappan was sitting on a rock, and he saw the shell out and he got scared. Then he said, "Hey, you are so-and-so. First thing, you are so-and-so. His name, your ex? Yes. Your brother-in-law is Y? Yes. You had this family problem? Yes." He knows the whole CV. So this fellow got terrorized. What more? So they befriended him and started giving him small, task. Now after doing this 3-4 times, in one interesting journey, he was taken 200 and odd kilometers all over the place. From one bus he will get down, another bus he will get down, somebody will... Actually, when he finally ended up, he found the target was only 20 kilometers from where he started. Can you beat it? Do you believe it? You understand what I'm saying? That is what is called shaking away the tail. That was a kind of intelligence system. So he was not an ordinary fellow. He was a smart chap, smart cookie. So this man was our first contact to get a breakthrough. Because of the constable's intelligence effort, he was introduced to my SP. The SP brought it to me. I directly interacted with him. That led to another contact, and that led to the final operation.
The final encounter.
Yes.
So obviously from what I hear, Mr. Vijay Kumar, lot of thinking like the enemy, putting oneself in his mind, in his psychology, using small time intelligence sources, plotting the Veerappan's movements, patient intelligence work on the ground with a very good team. Light loaded, I think were all elements of a overall strategy which was used to, I think, pin him down.
Absolutely, you are dead on, but most important is morale of the leader. We used to have flops, a lot of bungled operations, very close encounters, missing him narrowly. But whenever we miss narrowly, the secret understanding, the language between me and my number 2, we should have a very cheerful face. Whenever we had a good news, we'll have a long face.
Yeah.
So nobody could make out what was happening, and I kept it like a cell. Number 1, me, number 2, we know certain projects. Number 2 and 3 will know certain projects. Number 1 and 4 will know certain projects. And there is absolute integrity of information. Nobody will ask, and the ranks were simply removed. We erased the ranks and said, like in Roman army, when it was in its peak, 1,000 years they ruled. I'm talking about 500 years of the zenith of Rome. There was a rule. If you have good information, you could go to the general of the army. But that good system, SOP, was ignored later, so flopped. We followed that. If anybody has good information, he come to me as ADG. Nobody can stop it. And nobody should question why he met me. So this was one thing helpful. So all the points you said are absolutely dead on.
Thank you. Looking at hearing this, Nawab Sahab, when you approach a very cunning man-eater, I mean, we've read a lot of Corbett and the man-eating leopard of Rudraprayag, all those classics. Sometimes it seems to me that you need to think in a very similar way to go after a man-eater of this size and magnitude. So the way in which, for example, Mr. Vijay Kumar and team set a trap, do you think like that when approaching a man-eater, or is your thinking different? How do you read the mind of the cat?
You see, every tiger is different. And in the olden days, what we read of Champion and Corbett, old sick tigers, injured tigers turned to man-eating and man-killing. But today the scenario is different. Of the 22, 23 man-eaters tigers that I have handled, I would say 90% of them were all young, healthy animals. Young and healthy animals. Sub-adult, those who have just crossed 3 years, who are finding a territory, who are looking for a new territory. And then, for some reason, they kill. You see, my reading of the situation is that, as I told you, when our forest areas have reached a saturation point as far as tigers are concerned, and the spillover is into, you see, in an overpopulated country like ours, if a tiger is out of Bandipur, it is in Gundalpet. The concept of buffer is just an illusion. Any spillover, as you all know from Mudumalai, Gudlur town starts 500 meters from that checkpost. So any spillover of Gudlur is from Mudumalai is into Gudlur town. So we don't have anything like buffer, it is only on paper. So this increase in tiger numbers, when they spill over into human habitation, there is nothing for them to eat. The basic rule, which very few people understand, is a tiger needs to kill once a week, a normal tiger in normal circumstances, which means 52 times in a year a tiger has to kill. Now when a tiger is moving around Gundalpet, which aerial distance is 15 kilometers from the boundary of Bandipur National Park, there is nothing for it to eat. Now I'm talking to you in this tone because my host has taken very good care of me. Even now he saw to it that I had my lunch. Now if that was not done, and if I hadn't eaten from morning, my body language, my persona would have been totally different. Half of you would have walked out of the hall by now.
If I'm not cheeky, I would like to interrupt because this is just leaping out of my tongue. He's a Nawab Khan. His name, another Khan, is running that Khan's Academy long time back, one of the very popular sites for free education. Top guy, Pakistani guy. His quote, I remember, the hungry lion hunts the best. Are you trying to
No.
say something like
A
that?
hungry lion hunts the best when you can give the lion something to chase. What I am trying to tell you all is that my 40 years in the forest, working from the age of 19, I was 19 years old when I was asked to handle the first rogue elephant around Mysore, which had killed 12 people. And we had to eliminate it. There was no other go.
Any fear or something in your mind? Or
Sir, every operation is dangerous. Because we are not dealing with a normal animal. It is an animal which has killed multiple people. The forest department has not been able to capture it. They have not been able to trap it. And as a last resort, they call someone to help them.
yeah.
Now, apart from hunting man-eaters from the last 15 years, I'm very pleased to tell you all that we have an NGO, and I was a national champion in target shooting with Mr. Devaram. I have shot nationals. So, basically, I don't like hunting. I don't like, one second, let me come. I don't like hunting. I see no pleasure in sitting on a tree and killing an innocent tiger. It's something very repulsive to me. And I would fight with my grandfather and all the hunters of the...
Again, I will interrupt. I'm very sorry I had to shoot a tiger which was on a tree. Not a tiger, leopard. So I may be excused.
Yes.
I will give you a full justification in case somebody questions me why we did it.
Yes.
We did it because there were 5,000 villagers around and there was going to be killing anyway. and we would have had to open police firing and kill the human being. So between a human being and the animal, we decided by balance of this thing what we should do. This happened in 1981 when I was SP, young SP in Dharmapuri. So I may be pardoned.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So what I did was, in the year 2009, there was a tigress which had strayed out of Pilibhit and come into Faizabad and killed a lot of people, which we unfortunately had to shoot. And then I realized that when one can shoot, why can't one tranquilize an animal? So we started an NGO with the head of Forest Force Joint Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Malhotra, and we looked into the tranquilizing equipment that was in the Nehru Zoological Park at Hyderabad. Most of their dart guns were rusted, neglected. The veterinarians didn't know how to use them. So man-eaters and stressed animals in Andhra Pradesh, Srisalam, which is the largest tiger project in the country, were left to fend for themselves. And we started this, and I repaired all those dart guns. Then I went to Africa. I was sent to Tanzania, where I learned tranquilizing professionally, worked on the field, and now I have trained 9 state forest department personnel. We have conducted training in Tamil Nadu also, but many in Bandipur. And we have inculcated this art of shooting. Even a dart gun needs to be fired. You have to load a dart in it. It's like an air rifle. But the parabolic arc is very obvious. So at 20-25 meters, to connect on a stressful leopard which is moving is not easy.
Another point I would like to add, supplement, because I am also a gun lover in that sense. See, the speed of a normal bullet, 7.62 or something, could be something like 2,000 some feet per second.
700.
2,500, depending on the potency of the gunpowder.
Yes.
2,700 is ideal. It can come down to 400. It can be. That is the speed per second. You can multiply into miles. It will be like several hundred miles. Whereas the dart is more difficult to shoot because you've got to be more accurate, and the distance is very, very hazardous zone of 20 meters.
Yes, 25
And the speed
meters
of
is the
dart is
maximum
very, very
range.
glacial, very slow.
25 meters is the maximum range we can. 270 FPS, feet per second, is the speed of the dart gun. Compared to the 7.62 rifle bullet which sir is talking is 2,600 feet per second versus 270 feet per second. So this is very, very slow, and it goes up at 10 meters and goes down at 25 meters. So to connect on a moving tiger or leopard is very difficult, and that animal has to be darted in a particular place because we use a very powerful drug, ketamine and xylazine, 100 mg/ml. So if you hit a tiger in the thoracic region or the neck, there's possibility of it dying. So it's only on the back leg and the big muscle that they are tranquilized. We have inculcated this art of tranquilizing to our veterinarians.
So I think what we've heard is a sort of conservationist hunter who cares about wildlife but is concerned about where we are headed. We've also heard from Mr. Vijay Kumar on the approach broadly of how finally he killed Veerappan. It's a good time, I think, because both authors felt we should throw it open to the audience the last 15-20 minutes. And so if there are questions, yes, please. Saz, I think, do we have... Can we have a mic from here?
I mean,
Yes, sir,
it's an act of impropriety to correct the moderator. Instead of word killed, you can say brought to an end is infamous saga. That's what the gender.
And 1 minute, I would just like to conclude on this. Please give me 2 minutes. The conflict today is because of certain animals having increased in certain pockets. Maharashtra, for example, Chandrapur town has got 17 tigers in their municipal limits. I think Ooty also has a tiger in the municipal limit. Bhopal has got 9 tigers. Tigers can't live in a city like Bhopal in the municipal limits. The laws of conservation, Wildlife Protection Act enacted in 1972 is a very powerful act. And with conservation efforts, tigers have increased. The only solution to this is that we have to ultimately, if not today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, keeping the overall scenario of our country, wild animals will have to be confined to their forests. There will be no place 10 years from now where an elephant can go into the urban areas of Kerala. The poisoning you are seeing today, 147 tigers poisoned from January to September 23, is an outcome of this. I have worked on ground zero, I have lived with tribals, eaten with them. They are very tolerant people. But now the fuse is about to go. The day is not far when our own people are going to become enemies of our wildlife. We are not able to provide them with a proper livelihood. And with animal raids on poor people, they have no one to turn and they have nothing but to put up electric fences direct from 440 volt or poison them.
Yeah. I think that point is very well made. He's been a passionate advocate of something has to be done. Yeah, please. Oh, sorry.
No,
sure.
I was saying, apart from the conflict and this, there's a saying that the tiger is a gentleman, but the tigress is not a... There's a talk, because tigress is more fierce in protecting its cubs. And here is a young cub who did a brilliant job, this big tiger's cub, Asghar. I read that chapter on 217, your chapter, beautiful. He was staying in a place for 45 days to hunt. And the papa left for Bihar for another mission, and the son immediately got a chance, and next day he shot it. So there is inherent philosophy in it. You hand it over.
He is very much alive.
I stand to correction. That tigress was darted, which Avni, and it charged at the darting team. And from 6 feet, she had to be eliminated.
Yeah.
Because after the medicine is injected, there is something called induction period, which may be 10 to 15 minutes. So in that period, we have no control over the animal.
So Nawab Saab.
So I think we are opening it out. Please,
Nawab Saab, you started off talking about your conversation with your grandfather. And so will you complete that and tell us also about how you converted that legacy which he was giving to you, what you're doing now?
Ma'am, what happened was, after the Wildlife Protection Act came, most of the gentlemen shikaris had hung up their guns. And when conflict started, when I was just out of school in the early 70s, there were no professional hunters in the country. That was a time when tranquilizing, darting, immobilizing was unheard of. So when a tiger or an elephant became a serial killer, you see, I'm not talking of stray incidences, or in the previous session we were talking of accidental killing. These are not accidental killing. These are deliberate killings. Avni killed 13 people, stalked them, targeted them and killed them. The elephant we captured in Jharkhand was a serial killer. It had killed 15 tribals. So the animals we are dealing with are not accidental. These are planned attacks on human beings. So when that happened and I had to, take this and carry on with that, it was more of a social service that we did it. Because I, as a conservationist at heart, can understand that if one problematic animal is not arrested, that triggers off a wave of anti-wildlife wave. And today it's all the more active because of WhatsApp. And when a human being is killed, those gory pictures of the body are on social media. When I am called to Nagpur to handle a man-eater and I get down at the airport, people are already sharing pictures of the lady who was killed the previous day. So these gory pictures have a very negative effect on the minds of people. Today, people are ready to kill a tiger and go to jail.
Right.
The day is over when we could sit, when people like Sir and all could sit and talk to a group of people where a man-eater has roamed. You won't get a glass of water over there.
Yeah, we'll
The
take
anger has gone to that level.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take any other few more questions, please. Yes, this gentleman here.
One small question. If Veerappan was allowed to hunt with the license, if Veerappan was allowed to hunt with a gun, get a license and start hunting, and he was allowed to, cut the timber, do you think we would have required a force to do all these things, so many people, and whole thing, did we require this?
Is the question if Veerappan was legally allowed to
Hunt, log wood, do you think we would have had this STF for so many people involved?
Very reasonable question, because
We're wasting time. I think we're wasting time and money and...
No, it's a very reasonable question, and you are not the first one to ask. There's a big queue, and you are in the queue. Many people have raised this question, why you are wasting your sweat and treasure on this vacuous hunt. For 20 years you have been chasing him, the gas is all the time evanescent, fleeing, and you are like a Dumbo, you are getting fooled all the time. But Justice Sabharwal and another justice in Supreme Court asked very pointed questions to the government of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, when on the basis of such a momentum, public opinion, the government decided that we will concede 9 conditions of Veerappan and allow him to have a beautiful, huge bungalow, like an open house prison near Madurandagam Lake, which is one of the biggest lake created by Pallavas, 100 kilometers or so from Chennai. Allow him free access to his relatives, free media access and everything. 9 conditions are about to be conceded. On this single point, that anyway you are not being able to catch him, why don't you let him be? But the difference in view of the two governments was, Jayalalitha ji was absolutely focused, and she said this cannot go on because on a Good Friday in the year 1993, 14 mines were kept at a distance of 10 feet each, which blew up 14 or 15 civilians and rest policemen, 22 people killed on a Good Friday. What a coincidence and tragic coincidence. Virendra Patel, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, landed up, and I was the chief bodyguard of Jayalalitha ji that time. And I was watching the trauma on such a brave and deadly person, very powerful lady. She was agonized, and I was wondering what the hell I can do as a policeman. And like me, many others were anguished, and we were not going to go with your kind of view saying that he is uncatchable, so give him the amnesty, and give him like what happened in Medellin, that fellow, that Colombian drug lord was allowed. He was allowed to have a football court, he was allowed to have jacuzzi, he was allowed to have any pretty girl of his choice in this thing. 4 murders were committed by him when he was given that kind of amnesty. And finally the government, so the leopard doesn't change the spots, and Veerappan is not going to change the spot. He had so many ambitions. While Pulan Devi, the Chambal dacoit, was becoming that MP, and finally she got killed in front of her MP's residence. This man's things have been stoked, ambitions. Because Jayalalitha was his bête noire, or his arch enemy, he started doing propaganda. 9-10 hours he gave video tapes to various TVs, supporting Mr. Karunanidhi when the elections were due. And not that Karunanidhi became bounded to him or did anything funny. He was also a very sensible man. He knew, mature man. But the circumstances were growing in such a way that Mr. Krishna, who had just come in as chief minister there, and Mr. Karunanidhi was six months to go for the election, Rajkumar's abduction happened. Same questions arose. Granite quarry owners, movie makers, transport contractors, and one more. Crores and crores of money was mobilized, known and unknown sources. A series of couriers went in. Some media men went in. The same question was, why can't STF go in? STF had brave men like Nawaz and Hussain. All these people were sent on special duty. Somebody was sent on traffic duty. A jungle constable, jungle troop like STF cannot do traffic duty in Tirupur. So all traffic was haywire. And they were sent to Chennai to be on some funny training in Veerapuram. So people were diverted because they thought this Nawaz and Hussain and all these dedicated fellows will do something maverick action, funny action, and still raid because they knew the exact location where Rajkumar was there. But the problem is, in a raid like this, if Rajkumar, what are the chances of his being rescued alive was a question raised. Somebody said 50-50, I think it was too optimistic. Even it is 50-50, imagine if Rajkumar, something had happened to him, what would have happened to the Tamil population in Karnataka? So Mr. Karnanidhi had to take a decision. He cannot be like me, think like a cop. He had to think like a politician. His spectrum was much bigger. So there was this question coming again and again. That is why we decided he is a crocodile in the water. He should not. Only a jaguar and crocodile are very powerful in water. We are not. So we will get him out on our own terms. So we did it. And that's what happened.
Sorry. Yes, Captain? The final encounter, you mean?
I didn't have somebody asked me, were you able to chat with him or what is the question you asked him? I couldn't do any interview because he was gasping. And I was very clear that he's not going to live, though we try to. No, there's no capture. It was only finished. So there were about 300 bullets fired from our side. I forget what number of bullets were fired from his side. But the people who were actually firing the bullet, AK-47, he had a 7.62, which was stolen from Gobal Hozur's, that ambush which happened long back. And two others were firing, what do you call that? What is the other one called? Your other, no,
9mm.
No, not 9mm, you have the normal.
303.
Pump action kind of thing. Anyway, we used a grenade, stun grenade and smoke grenade to disorient him a bit. And we gave him that little window of opportunity which is reasonable and under the law demanded of us. We allowed him, demanded his surrender. We used a loudhailer, made the minimum offer. The minimum offer is what I could offer because if I try to be lavish in my offer, I am likely to lose men, and we have already lost, like somebody pointed out, hell of a lot of people. 144 on account and maybe another 50, 60 unaccounted. With nearly 200 gone on the human side, I didn't want our roster to look more red. So we did the limited, what is ethically possible, what is tactically convenient and right. That's what I think we did.
So I think we have just 5 minutes to go.
Sir, I have one last question.
One last question, please.
You are declaring last, but how do you know what?
But
I have a question regarding man-eating big cats, carnivores. When you come across a man-eating, let's say a tigress with cubs, for instance, how do you make that decision? What do you prioritize? Whether you prioritize the animals or the people in danger, considering that the cubs are at risk of survival if their mother is eliminated. So what do you consider while making that decision? Thank you.
You see, shooting first is to drive the animal back from where it's come. Second is to put baits and cages and capture them. Third is to tranquilize them. We spend a lot of time on this at the lives of people. 8-10 people have already been killed while the department is experimenting with new veterinary doctors who are firing darts and missing. In Avni's case, 13 people had died when we were called, that too on Supreme Court orders. So, when it comes to cubs with the mother, the cubs remain with the mother for about 2 years. They are called sub-adults. And then, in this case also, they were sub-adult cubs. And they both survived after Avni was shot. After a year or so, nature kicks in. Tiger and leopard cubs start catching frogs, rats, small things, and they survive. So, but again, to answer your question, these are sentimental questions and answers, mother with cubs. You have to see the larger picture. One second, let me complete. You don't talk of saving a tiger. You talk of saving the tiger. You have to save the tigers generally, the entire 100 tigers in your state. If you are going to talk of saving one tiger is because she has cubs and she should not be eliminated, and like in Avni's case, she terrorizes 26 villages for 2.5 years, you have created a wave of anger against wildlife. There have been 14 tigers poisoned in that area, cubs, mother, everything. A tigress and cubs went into a cave, for your information. The villagers closed that cave and burnt them all inside. That nobody knows. We are on the ground level, we know. Why I am telling you is that a man-eater or a rogue elephant or a problematic animal in an overpopulated country like India, in Africa it can survive. But in an overpopulated country like India, a problematic animal has to be plucked out of the system as early as possible in the general interest of wildlife conservation.
Yeah, I think, in fairness, we have a very strong conservationist at the back, Shankar Raman. I'll take one question and we close the session. Shanaz, with your permission. So, Dr. Shankar Raman, please, and then please feel free to interact with these gentlemen. Buy their books also, and you can see what they're trying to say.
Yeah, sorry,
Shankar, go ahead.
I'll try to be very brief, but I had a comment for the organizers as well as for the panelists here. The comment for the organizers is that you have two eminent people here, one who's put down Veerappan and another who's put down a number of wildlife. And I see that, in a sense, we're giving a very wrong equivalence here between animals who are, in a sense, you're equating them with criminals, and also a human being for whatever criminal he was with animals. And I think this framing itself has, I don't know whether it's correct or wrong, but I'm saying that creating a framing of that kind, in my opinion, has been one of the most problematic ways to address the serious issue of human-wildlife conflict. We have to throw this framing out of the window. Animals are not criminals, and the criminals are certainly not animals.
Let me answer.
Just one second.
Okay.
Just one other point I wanted to say is that I also feel that there are a lot of other framings that we sort of subconsciously take in. Like animal numbers are increasing. They are straying out of forest areas. They should only be in forest areas. I think these are, again, wrong framings. Especially with elephant numbers, we actually don't know the figures. You cannot go by those 1987 figures and the present day figures, because then you have to believe that Kerala has lost 40% of its elephants in 2 years. It's the same census. So I don't think we know whether animal numbers are increasing or not. And secondly, most of them are not straying. They are moving over landscapes where they have historically roamed to a large extent. Maybe there are some new areas they're moving in. So creating the right framing is the very first step to address this. And finally, I feel that to address conflict, you have to make sure that the people on the ground are the ones who are able to address conflict. You cannot look for people coming from outside, whether it's to capture an animal or to shoot it. You have to help the people deal with the situation on the ground. It's a problem location, not a problem animal.
I don't know if you have ever lived in an area where a man-eater has been around. Have you? How many killings around you in your village? No, not Annamalais. Don't talk of the district. I'm talking of the village where you have lived. Has there been any animal?
I think we can do the conversation offline.
There is no difference. There is no difference. A man-eater terrorizes the villages. People can't go to schools. People can't go to fields. 2.5 years in Yavatmal, there was no one to pick up cotton from the crops.
Yeah,
let
now
me-
Sab, I
What is
think we should.
That is the similarity in what Veerappan did and what Avni did,
So,
Yeah.
whether we like it or not.
Wait a minute. He's a great speaker. His erudition is very profound. I am not a speaker. I am more into the action part because that's my job. So since he has swept and won your hearts and minds before he is going to take all of you away from what thought I was trying to tell you, let me tell you, I am a social scavenger. I have been authorized by the law to do this job. If not, why did you give me a gun and why did you send me there? Not because I wanted to go there, I wanted to kill him. We are not born congenital killers at all. I have more compassion. My men have much more compassion than me. I have seen them. Would you know that Mohan Nawaz, when his salary was a pittance, from his personal salary, he used to give informants 5 rupees, 10 rupees, and there is a very deadly operation in which human excreta was the only sole clue for a massive operation to be conducted by the Delhi Police Commissioner called Sanjay Arora. If you're so keen, you go and read the chapter. I'm not selling my books. I want you to read the chapter and see what behind that intelligence, because ragi eating excreta is brown, and this is rice eating yellow, and that place is full of ragi eaters. That single piece of information was brought by one Jadayan. For bringing the information, all Jadayans in the village was killed. That village is called Gedesal. I'm going there next week to help out the school through some CSR which somebody offered. Why did he kill 5? Because Jadayan was absent that day. Jadayan was police informant. Such brutality, if somebody is going to do, what the hell policemen like you and my team should do? I am not contradicting you at all. I have great appreciation. I listen to your interventions beautifully. But this is my submission. So all your hearts and minds should not go that way. Keep a little bit for us also.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.